Good morning, dear respected teacher, dear friends. Can everyone hear me okay? Great, okay. Um, Let us breathe together as we listen to three sounds of the bell. I want to invite you to sit as a solid mountain. You may like to put your hands on your abdomen. Feel the connection between your knees, your bottom with the earth. You can imagine yourself as a little boat on the ocean. Your breath is the anchor for your boat to be still, calm, and solid. Whether your waves are calm or thunderous, your breath is your anchor, keeping you still, centering you in this moment. Breathing in, I'm aware that this is an in-breath. Breathing out, I'm aware that this is an out-breath. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya, dear respected teacher, dear noble community. Today is Sunday, March the 19th in the year 2023. We are in the Rising Tide Meditation Hall at Magnolia Grove Monastery at our Wake Up Retreat. Together, we build a future. Today is the last day. We're in our final moments of the retreat. How does everyone feel? This morning, before entering the hall, I heard a number that was very, very interesting. So this morning, for those who participated in the 5 mindfulness trainings transmission ceremony, as you saw, there were more people in the middle than there were outside, right? But I heard a number that at our retreat, there was roughly 41 friends who have not received the 5 mindfulness trainings. And this morning, our number was 31. And so I really want to congratulate everyone who received and who supported the transmission ceremony this morning. It's such a wonderful, wonderful image to see the community grow, to see us grow as a community. This retreat, for me personally, I've had so many wonderful memories. This retreat would not be possible. A lot of us, we come here, we think the monastics are the ones who, we organize, we take care, we do everything. But to be honest, if it was just the monastics, the retreat will move 2 times slower. And so with the thanks to all of our friends who have come, the retreatants who have come and participated, You help make this energy of the retreat. You help make the retreat. The monastics we can organize, but if no one comes, no one comes. But the fact that you're here, the fact that you're still with us, the fact that you continue to bear the torch, it says a lot. It says a lot about community. It says a lot about the friendships that we have grown, that we have made while we're here. The monastery, we're just, a great condition for us to train ourselves, for us to grow as wake-uppers. How many of us here, this is a very personal question, like to watch anime? Okay, I saw a lot of hands raised. Okay, all right. There's a specific anime that I enjoyed watching before I was a monk, and maybe a little bit while I was a monk. I really liked Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Right, I see a lot of heads nod. Yeah, okay, great. So we're on the same page. There's something I really appreciate there's a lot of dharma in it. Right? Take out all of the, good guy, bad guy, I need to defeat the bad guy, I need to, all this stuff. But there's a lot of dharma in it. And one of the dharmas in there that I really appreciate is the hyperbolic time chamber. How many of us know what the hyperbolic time chamber is? Okay, great. Yeah, so the hyperbolic time chamber is a place where our friend Goku, if you don't know, this is Goku. He's the main character in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and this is him with his. Remind me of the name again. I'm sorry. There's so much in my mind right now. I'm sorry. It will come to me. Yes, the pole. But he always used the name for it. I'm sorry. But anyways, these warriors, they would come because they knew there was a threat. They knew there was a threat coming, and they would go to the hyperbolic time chamber. When they were older, Goku, this was little baby Goku, but when Goku was more of an adult, he and his friends, threats would come to Earth, and they had to train themselves. And these threats were much larger than their own strength, their own capacity. And so in the hyperbolic time chamber, time goes slower, and the amount of gravity is very strong. It's very heavy. It's like 100, 300 times the gravity of Earth. And I think one day of Earth's time is equivalent to 1 year in the hyperbolic time chamber, something like that. I'm rusty with my Dragon Ball Z lingo. But so these warriors, they go into the hyperbolic time chamber without wasting much Earth time. They train themselves to be much stronger. And so the same can be said when we come to a retreat. Being at the monastery, we're here, we're immersing ourselves with this mindfulness energy. Maybe we've come with the aspiration to serve. Maybe we've come with the aspiration to heal ourselves. Maybe we've come with the aspiration just to get to know oneself. But we come to grow, we come to learn, we come to connect with oneself and with others. And so we're kind of in a hyperbolic time chamber. So the moment you leave the monastery, you might feel yourself be stronger. Or there might be a shock, actually. Just as when you entered the monastery, there might have been a shock. I've shared with some friends that you know, especially as young people, we might not get a chance to train our mindfulness muscle, our mindfulness practice. And so the first couple of days at the monastery, you feel maybe a little exhausted. Like this is something new, a new muscle we're training, and then we become a little sore after a period of time. Like it's like if you're working out again, you become achy, really sore, your body can't move. But if you keep on training, you become used to it. Your endurance builds, your practice, it builds, it becomes stronger, it becomes ready for any kind of threat that might come. And so having a practice that we're here, recognizing oneself, giving ourselves love, acknowledging ourselves, these are all part of the training. It's all part of being in the hyperbolic time chamber. The energy that we create in this retreat, this mindfulness energy that you feel, don't take it for granted. It can really take us many far distances. Just this little moment of connection, this little moment of peace, of happiness that we build, like it pays us dividends for the future. And you can already see a lot of people's growth and transformations. There's more smiles on people's faces today than there were maybe the first day. Everyone's really fresh. And it's really the garden. I'm looking at a garden and of beautiful flowers. And it's really such an honor and a privilege. And so today, during the Dharma talk, is really kind of just more of me just sharing, but just more of just, I want it to be more of like a hanging out, just friends on the path, just together and cultivating this wonderful energy of mindfulness. And so what's being said today is not as important as our connection with each other. And so what I want to focus on is, since that it is the last day of the retreat, I think maybe some of us, we might start to have like a little bit of thinking about like, okay, what's next? Like, I've been at this retreat for the past 4 or 5 days. I'm nourished, I'm happy, kumbaya, kumbaya, everything's good, life's good. And then the moment we get in our car, or the moment our Uber or Lyft picks us up, or the moment we're on a plane, something hits us. Or we're like, now what? Either if you come by yourself, or if you come with friends. That's a question that we probably are asking. Even the monastics, we ask the same question. Now the wake-up retreat is done, now what? Well, luckily we'll have lazy days after this, which is a sacred time at the monastery, but we also have to process the retreat. And so an important question that we need to ask ourselves is, how do we keep it alive? How do we keep what we have going alive? How do we sustain it? This happiness we feel right now, or this peace we feel right now, how do we maintain it? How do we how do we keep it? Or what can we take from this retreat that we've learned and apply it to our daily life? And so I'd like to share a little bit about kind of my thoughts and also my experiences with keeping the practice alive, especially as a young monk. As young people, we have a lot of distractions. We have a lot of things pulling us. So we feel like we're a puppet, in a sense. Somebody is attaching strings and we're just kind of moving and just no control. We have no control. And so It's important for us to recognize our contribution to ourselves, but also to society. If you've noticed during the retreat, we've had many, like I shared earlier, we're contributing to the mindfulness energy, but also it takes something for a retreat to work. It takes something for this retreat to be successful or just to get through the final day. And so the fact that we have our Dharma sharing groups, we have our work services, and so thank you to all of our volunteers who have just helped and guided us in the work. Our staff members, we really appreciate you, because without our friends helping with washing up, without our bodhisattvas cleaning toilets, without our meditation hall team, without any of this just help. Like, imagine if the toilets weren't clean this whole retreat. Maybe 50% of us won't be here. We're like, no, I gotta go, I can't be here. Or imagine if nothing gets done. So we all work together. The pot washing team is the hand, meditation hall team, the toilet team, the feet. We're all one body working together. We're not doing everything. We're just doing our part. And so with that in mind, we can also give rise to our own body. So we look at our own body, moving as one Sangha body, but now coming back to our own body. We have our organs, we have our hands, our feet, our eyes, our nose, our ears. We have our heart, our lungs, our intestines, our liver, our kidneys, you name it. They're all working together for us to be what we are right now. The fact that we are here sitting like this, I think there's an equation or like a fraction or like the possibility of us being here in this moment. It's a very small fraction. The fact that we're alive, how we got to be alive, from the moment our parents consummated and us fighting through our siblings and making it. Like, just give thought to that. It's pretty amazing. And the fact that we've grown up to where we are now, sitting here in this moment, it's a miracle. It really is a miracle. And so we look at our body, we come back to our body, we take care of our body, we take care of our mind. We're really taking care of a lot. And so I will dive deeper in a couple of minutes about how we can continue to nurture our body, continue to nourish ourselves to stay alive. If we want to keep our practice alive, we have to stay alive. Not just physically, but spiritually. An important part of living is the type of food that we take in. So we can agree that we need some kind of nutriment for our body. So the type of food that we eat. So with our monastic sisters and siblings who've cooked the food for us to eat for the retreat, it's very delicious. I see flowers, so let's get them some flowers. But we take this food, and the way we eat the food is a type of nourishment for our body. So if we're eating healthy foods, if we're eating greens, we're eating our vegetables, we're eating all this, our body likes it. But if we're just eating like chips all day, our body might not like it. Like, it's called empty calories, And so what we're putting into our body, it has an impact onto the rest of our organs. And so if we're eating good food, our heart's happy, digestive system's happy, nervous system's happy, everybody's good. But if we're eating something like just what is unhealthy or what we can be allergic to, our body immediately has a reaction and we suffer. Like our body is suffering. But our mind might not be aware of that. Because sometimes when we're intaking certain foods and we're not aware of what we're eating, we damage our body, which in turn damages our mind. And so there could be moments where we're finding loneliness, despair, or just we're in a really bad spot. And so sometimes we lean towards something a food we take in, we ingest, and it just damages our body. We damage our body without knowing. It's called the power pole. Sorry, the power pole. I heard, that's what you said. I couldn't hear you, sorry. The power pole, sorry. I'm sorry. But the way we nurture our body is so important. The way because that's what sustains ourselves. That's what helps us to stay alive. So if we're eating chips all day, I love chips, so I'm not saying chips is a bad thing, but if we're eating it all day, we're not gonna last too long. But if we're putting the right stuff that our body agrees to, and if we're eating mindfully, we're really taking care of ourselves. That's a way to take care of yourself. And so a reason why maybe the food is so delicious is because you're eating it mindfully. You're actually aware of what you're eating. You're not eating your thoughts. Sometimes we might have a screen in front of us. Might be eating what's on the screen, or just eating our thoughts. Not eating food. And after we finish that, we're like, what did I just finish eating? And so what we're nurturing ourselves with is so important for us to sustain life. And so the same thing can be said with our practice. What are we nurturing our practice with? How are we keeping our practice alive? And so while we're here, it's very easy because we have a community. We have friends on the path. We can wake up, go to sitting meditation, go to walking meditation, not a worry in the world, just practice. And that's what's nourishing our practice. That's the food for our practice. The connections we have, that's the food for our practice. It's very easy. But how do we bring that back? Because I don't think 60 or so people can live with us in wherever we live. Maybe, I don't know. If we could, please invite us. There's a sutra, it's called the 4 kinds of nutriments that I'd like to offer today. So these are ways that we nurture ourselves. So the first nutriment is edible foods. So this is the foods that we eat to nourish our body. So the food that we just eat in general, edible, something that's edible. So that one's quite clear. In the sutra, the Buddha used a example as there was a family that was traveling through the desert, and there's a mother, a father, and their young son. They were traveling through the desert, and they had ran out of food. They had ran out of food to nourish, but it was very clear they still had a couple of more days left until they reached to the next city. And so they had to come to a decision that, or they had the thought that we ran out of food. Either we have to kill our son and use him as food, or all three of us die. And so they went to the decision to kill their son and eat his flesh. And they eventually made it to the city. And the Buddha asked, do you think that the parents enjoyed eating their son's flesh? And the monks responded, no, there's no joy in eating your child's flesh. And so this was the example that the Buddha gave. So if we are aware of the type of food that we're ingesting in our body, this is a type of way we can nourish ourselves. So please be aware of what you're nurturing. The second one is sense impressions. So this is the food that our senses. So the food we have from our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our body, and our mind. So the senses that we take in. So for example, now you're sitting, you're listening to a Dharma talk. So you're looking at me, your eyes are engaged at me, your ears are engaged to the sound, your body's in touch with the cushion. I don't think anyone's eating anything. Or just saw someone drinking some water. But the senses, the food that comes in, the nutriment that comes in through senses. And the example that the Buddha gave here was a cow that it's a very gory image of a cow, basically a skinless cow where many fleas are eating at the skin of the cow. Or maybe you can say it's like a corpse of a cow, but the cow is still alive in a sense. And so, very gory. I don't know, the Buddha likes to use very gory images just to get straight to the point, but it's the senses. So the cow's body was suffering through the fleas and this whole senses part. The third kind of nutriment is our volition. So this is, volition is our deepest desire. What do we desire the most? Our deep aspiration. The example that the Buddha gave in the sutra was there was a city that was near a very burning charcoal. So right next to the city, so it was very clear that if you were to, there's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of fire going on. It's very unhealthy to live in that environment. And so it was very clear to the person that was there that if I continue to live here, I will die because of the charcoal, the smoke, just the very bad environment. So he made the decision, or they made the decision to go to another town because they wanted to stay alive, the desire to stay alive, the desire to have the conditions to stay alive. So he took his stuff, went to another village. Simple as that, just because of his deep desire, his aspiration to stay alive. And the fourth nutriment is our consciousness. I'll make sure I spell it right. Something like that. So the example that the Buddha gave in this nutriment was that there was a burglar in the village, and he called all of his police or his army to bring the burglar to him, and to punish him. And so they punished him in a way where he took 300 knives and stabbed it into their body. Very, very intense. Very intense. So this was the example that the Buddha gave. But today I want to focus on our volition, our deepest desire. This sutra is available on our Plum Village website. So if you want to read deeper into the other kinds of nutriments and the examples that the Buddha gave, please search the 4 kinds of nutriments and you'll get more detail. But today I want to focus on our volition, our deepest aspiration. The other day, someone asked me, how do I keep my aspiration alive? How do I keep it? How do I know what it is? How do I know what I desire? How do I know how to discover or continue to understand my aspiration? It's so important for us as humans to have a passion, to have an aspiration, to know what we want to do. So for example, if I have an aspiration to come to the monastery once a month because I know how much it nourishes me, I know how much I need it for my practice, I will find a way. So the aspiration is to come to the monastery once a month, or the aspiration is I want to become a monastic, maybe, right? If you want to become a monastic, you will do all the tools in your life for you to be a monastic. Because you see that is a way for you to nurture your life, your dream, your aspiration. My aspiration when I became a monk was not because of practice. It was because of community. I really love the image of monastics and the image that Trie has given of community, of living together harmoniously, living together with kind people, compassionate people, building compassion. Later on did I discover my aspiration was to really take care of oneself in order to help take care of others. A lot of us, we might find ourselves burnt out through people pleasing or through wanting to help others before helping ourselves. As long as everyone else is okay, I'm okay. Some of us have that thinking. I have that thinking. Especially as a monastic. You know, sometimes you're in a position, I want to offer so much, but in turn, you look back at yourself, wait, I don't have anything to offer. Or you think that way. And so I burnt out from this. I burnt out for people pleasing. So I had to be very careful. I had to show myself love. A phrase that Trie uses a lot is that, how can you love others if you can't love yourself? If you don't know how to love yourself, how do you expect to love others? Or how can you count on yourself for loving others? So it was so important for us to go down to the root, to what we desire, to take care of ourselves, to understand that. What is our true aspiration? What is our passion? And go for it. And sometimes it's super scary. Actually, a lot of times it's super scary. Especially the climate that we're in now. It seems like everything is going against us. The moment we take 2 steps forward, we take 1 step back. So in these moments, I think a lot about Trie. I think a lot about what he's done, the trailblazer that he was, calling for peace for his own country, just so that he can see his own people smile, stop crying, stop seeing the tears. So his practice, his deep aspiration was to bring this practice so that everybody can benefit, everybody can be nourished. But Trie, I'm for sure that his suffering is 100 times more than mine. What he had to go through, being exiled for almost 40 years, not being able to go home, going through a war, being in a place that seemed like a different planet in France or in the States. But he still found a way with his deep desire, his deep aspiration to build community, to build connection with everyone. And I remember one day I was attending Trie. It was during a winter retreat, and he liked to invite his disciples to go. So we lived in a hamlet on top of the hill, and there was another hamlet on the bottom of the hill where he liked to go every day to start a fire. So he had a fireplace, very nice. So it was just me and him. And so we were walking, and he gave me a sheet of paper. And he told me to practice writing gathas. Practice to create your own gatha. And Trie will be sitting and Trie sat next to me, and he was writing his transmission gathas for Dharma teachers. So there's usually a transmission of the lamp for Dharma teachers, and he was writing gathas for Dharma teachers. So we were together. So I had a blank sheet of paper, he had his notebook, and he was just like, just write your gatha. And I was like mesmerized by Trie because he was popping out gathas like cupcakes. Like they were just coming out. And I'm like just sitting there, and I'm just like, what do I do? And Trie's just like, just write. Just write something. We're doing this together. We're just together, we're writing. And after that, so I maybe 1 or 2 words was on my paper, and that was kind of it, because I was just so mesmerized by what he was doing. And Trie, after that, he said, I want you to be better than me. I want you to shoot higher. Trie is the bar, but we shoot higher. And I think that as a teacher always wants to see the success of their disciple. And so here, being in Trie's practice, we need to shoot higher. Trie has gone through all of that stuff. We're going through our stuff. But how do we Trie's the bar, but let's shoot over that. And it might seem near impossible because Trie is Trie. What else can I say? And this is not even me being biased or anything, but it's just like he's just an amazing being, what he's offered, just through the way he lives his life. But you see clearly that the way he lives his life is no different than how we're living ours. He's teaching us Come back to your breathing. Come back to your walking. Eat mindfully. Live your life with joy. Live your life with compassion and understanding. So he's given us the tools. We just got to do it. And so that was his aspiration, to really help people. But he can do that because he's helped himself. He's nourished himself. He took care of his body. He took care of what he was doing in his life for his practice. He took care of nurturing his practice so that it stays strong and it'll always be strong. It's always ready. There's a phrase that I used to play a lot of basketball, and I think I never go on with the talk without referencing basketball. And so here it is. There's a phrase that I always appreciate. It is, I stay ready so I don't have to get ready. So with our practice, we stay ready because we never know when anger or when despair is going to come. But we're always ready just because we've been able to take care of our breath, our steps. It sounds very simple, but it can really help us. And that is what helped Trie sustain his own practice. And that's how a lot of the monastics sustain our practice, is by being diligent, finding the time in our schedule. If we can't eat 20 minutes mindfully, start with 2. If we can't walk 45 minutes mindfully, start from our bedroom to our bathroom. If we can't find 30 minutes to sit, 2 minutes before you go to sleep. That is enough for us to find peace. That is enough for us to build. That's enough for us to grow. And so our deep aspiration, we've got to discover our volition. We've got to discover how to nourish it. And it can be anything. But having friends and having community will be that support for us. Dear friends, let's listen to a sound of the bell. An important practice that a lot of, we might hear a lot, especially in kind of Buddhist lingo, is the practice of no self, or the practice of not having a self. This is a very easy practice to actually talk about, to share, and to kind of I think I understand, but it's a very difficult thing to practice. It's easy to talk about, so my job is easy to talk about it, but to practice it, to truly practice it, is not easy. The practice of no self, the practice of interbeing, seeing us all as one. It's very easy to connect. And like I shared earlier, with our body, we have everything working together so that we're alive. But let's actually look even deeper, if we can. And so we talk about our creation, how we came about to be. And so if we look at it, we see ourselves as, okay, this is our body, We have what makes our body. Okay, what is our body made out of? We have water. We have water, bloods, but also let's look even deeper. Let's go to the protons, the neutrons, the electrons, the atoms, everything working together for us to be who we are now. All that. Can we agree that that's kind of what we're made out of? We're kind of made out of non-us elements. So we just didn't pop up out of nowhere. Like this flower, for example. Like this flower just didn't hey, I want to be an orchid. I'm an orchid. Right? There had to be something to come for this. So you see, as we always say, orchid needs, in order to sustain itself, it needs water. It needs good soil. It needs sunlight. It needs someone to water it. It needs someone to take care of it. And now the orchid can be fresh as it is today. And so, for ourselves, we also need those elements as well. So we have our parents who have given us birth. We have their parents who gave them birth. And then we have what we had as a child to grow. And we're here now. We had all these elements, non-me elements, come together so that I can be me. Right? But then, am I me? That's the question. So if we're looking deeply, we're actually seeing that, okay, we have the neutrons, the protons, the electrons, these atoms working together. We look at the flower, we're like, okay, most likely there's also protons, neutrons, atoms working together over there, but in a different way. But there's still atoms. Oh, not really that different. Okay, now let's look even farther. Okay, I don't know if any of you guys saw the stars last night and this morning. It's gorgeous, right? Okay, let's look up there. What's going on up there? It's also atoms. If science is correct, it's also atoms working together. So actually, we're no different than stars. We are the universe. The universe is in us. Isn't that crazy? That's really crazy. And so, as we move on to this thing called life, right? So, why we're here and atoms all working together, all that good stuff. This might be some controversial stuff being said soon, but we're here for it. Okay. This is an example that Trie has given. And so this line here is a line, infinity. Let's just say it's infinity, right? It's infinite. And so we have the day we were born, then our whole life, and the day we die, which hasn't happened yet, I hope. And so we have the day we were born and the day we die. So this is called being. I'll write this a little bigger. Or this is what we consider as being, our being, human being, us being alive. And so, just the question, what would this be called? Pre-being, post-being. Does that make sense? Let's use non-being. Let's go non-being. Okay. So, sorry, I'm having a little malfunction here. So we have being and non-being. And so this will also be non-being. Something like that, right? It's like math. Okay. So we have non-being, being, and then non-being. And so Trie, he would say, if God was the creator of being, then who's the creator of non-being? Does anyone know? No, right? I also don't know. I hope someone knew. So if we have being and non-being, this is our life here, but something has happened before we were alive, right? So we have our parents' life. So our parents were before our being, so now they've kind of moved into the realm of non-being, but they were alive, right? And so I don't know if I should erase this non-being part, but I'm just going to leave it. And I think there was a phrase that I heard that I really liked, is like, this period here, we were the twinkle in our Father's eye. And so, okay, and now let's look after we die. After we die, what do we have? We might be teachers. We have our students. If we have children, they're kind of like a descendant of ours, right? If we have children, then, they kind of carry our blood. And so let's just put the future or descendants. I don't know. We're just gonna, if it's misspelled, it's misspelled. So, our descendants. And so actually, when we're looking at this, we don't even know where we start or we end. And so we have our being when we're alive, but we've had our parents before that, and we've had our descendants in the future. I will explain a little bit more. So basically, I think you've probably heard that maybe the suffering that we receive might be the suffering of our ancestors, our parents, something that we've inherited from our parents. So for example, if our mother doesn't like cheesecake, for example, or she has an allergic reaction to cheesecake, she can't eat it, we might have inherited something like that. Maybe we don't like cheesecake, or we're allergic to cheesecake. So that's something we've inherited. And if we really like cheesecake, but we can't eat it, we might suffer. Or it's up to us to recognize any kind of suffering that we might have inherited from our parents. But then again, when we have descendants, they also might be receiving our suffering if we're not able to transform it. And so, when we look deeply, we need to see, what are we inheriting, but also what are we transmitting? What is continuing? So we might be receiving suffering from our parents. I think an example that I would give now is my parents. They were boat people from the Vietnam War. And I think my mother, she's quite traumatized when it comes to the ocean. So when she's on a boat in the ocean, a lot of fear comes up, a lot of trauma comes up. And I also get very nervous in a boat in the middle of the ocean. And so in a way, I've inherited some kind of, like, you know, yeah, I have no reason to. I didn't go through, I wasn't a boat person. I was born in the States. But why am I so scared in the ocean? Like a big space of water. Why is that so scary to me? And then I look deeply, I say, wow, okay, maybe this is some trauma that I've received from my parents. But once I recognize it, I can transform it, or I can find a way for it to be not transmittable to the future generation. Because what if my descendants love the water? Like, what am I want to have them enjoy the water if they love the water. I don't want to cut that off and continue the suffering. And so it's so important for us to see, recognize what is our suffering. What do we have? How can we transform it? Because what we are transmitting is even more important. And so this goes back to aspiration or volition. What is our deep aspiration? And once we found our aspiration, everything else will come into place. I trust that. I really do. And so now moving on is, with this still in mind, we are currently in a climate crisis. And that's very real. But how do we practice with that? And so what we shared earlier, the universe is us. Made of atoms, made of all these things. Okay. We look at the earth. We see the crisis that they are in. When we look deeply, we see that the earth is us. We are the earth. And if we know how to take care of ourselves, we know how to take care of the earth. If we see the earth as our loved one, we will know how to act accordingly. Really see the earth as someone you love, and you will know what to do. Doing it on your own will be difficult, but doing it as a sangha, as a community, anything's possible. But when you look at earth, the earth is it's a very bad circle. But if you look at the lifespan of the earth, before we came as humans, billions of years, there was already earth. So dinosaurs, bacteria, they've already been there before us. And so when you look at the earth's lifespan, we are a very small speck on the earth's lifespan. So maybe the human race, we won't survive. And if we don't survive, maybe Mother Earth will be in a really bad condition. But one thing about Mother Earth, and I think this is science, they've kind of proven something like, when the earth heats up, it goes back down to an ice age. So they've looked at that and they've studied that. So when the earth heats up, the earth will go back into an ice age. That's the way the earth takes care of herself. So the earth will find a way. But how can we help Mother Earth? How can we love Mother Earth? Because the reality is, we're just a small speck. We're a human race. And so we might die out because of what we've done to the earth. But when we see our relationship with the earth, we learn to love the earth in such a different way. And so rather than having despair around the climate, let's have hope. Let's have hope that we can love the earth, that we can truly be present for the earth, because we love ourselves. And when we have hope, we instill hope within everyone else rather than despair. And so, interbeing, all of that being said, we're all connected some way or some form. Let us listen to a sound of the bell. And so, when we talk about interbeing, when someone dies, especially someone we're close to, we also die a little bit with them. Like we die a little bit with them. But but also in the same way it can be said that we are also living for that person. Whoever we have lost, we're living for them. That person is alive within us. Because that person has impacted us some way, somehow. But how can we make that person's life of value? Through our own breathing, through our own practice. I feel very strongly that Trie, it's been over a year now that Trie has passed. But he is so alive in us. I don't know if you feel it, or maybe I'm going crazy, but I really feel he's so alive right now. Like if you look at it, we're breathing for him. He's using our lungs to breathe because the practice is so alive. Like we're breathing for each other. Trie is so alive in us right now. So yeah, he's not there physically, but he's even stronger now because he has us. We breathe for Trie. Trie can rest in us. And Trie can trust in us to practice, to continue his dream, his aspiration, to continue to water the good seeds in people, compassion and kindness. So how do we want to take advantage, or how do we want to breathe for Trie? How do we want to continue Trie? How do we want to make sure that his practice lasts on forever? His breath lasts on forever? The same thing can be said about us. How do we want our breath to continue? How do we want our breath to continue to our future descendants? Sometimes we can find ourselves in situations of really deep depression or really low points in our life. Like I've been there. I've also been in a place, even as a monastic, in depression. And it's very low. And you start to think other things. And it's scary. But a thought that comes up is, sometimes it's as easy as just taking one's life. I don't have to feel this pain anymore. I don't have to suffer anymore. I don't want to feel it anymore, so I'm sorry. But if we look deeply, we see that actually the suffering continues. The people who are living for us, they're inheriting our suffering. They're taking on our difficulties. We don't feel it anymore, but they feel it 10 times more. So we have to be very aware of our impact. Be very aware that our life has purpose. It can get very scary, it can get very low, it can get very dark. So we have to be very careful in our decisions. It's okay. We can have our friends. We need to share. Our friends are always there for us. Our community is always there for us. It's so important. Don't carry it on your own. Allow yourself to release to the community. Especially as young people with so many things going against us. It's so easy to think like that. So easy to fall in these spaces of darkness. But we have to be very careful, because if we really want to transcend suffering, our own suffering, we need to be the ones to take care of it. We don't want anyone else to take care of it. Because in the end, we don't want anyone worrying about us. So we need to really be careful in taking care of our suffering. We need to take care of it. It's okay if it's ugly. If it's ugly, hey, come here. Let me take care of you. Our breath has always been there for us. It's never left. The question is, are we ever there for it? Through moments of suffering, moments of happiness, moments of anything, our breath has always been there. It's never left. So we always have a friend. Our breathing, our breath, always been there. To conclude the sharing this morning, as young people, we can create a beautiful present and future. Well, how do we do that? Actually, this retreat will soon become the past. This retreat will soon become the past, but it's a good past. It's something that's nourished us. It's something that has sustained us. It's something that we find very positive in our life. It actually maybe can be life-changing, the retreat. And so this is us building our future. This is us creating a beautiful past. Sometimes we have our past that we don't want to get into. Past of so much suffering, so much despair. But let's start now. Let's make a beautiful past now. With our mindful breathing, our mindful steps, we can make a beautiful past. Investing now in this moment, because this moment, this in-breath and out-breath, this talk is going to be the past. But is it good or is it bad for you? Put yourself in situations and environments that is nourishing, that's positive, so that you can continue to grow as a human. We can create a beautiful future now, together, as a community, in Trie Sangha, practicing the 5 mindfulness trainings. You know, we have a great responsibility. We have a great task, a mission upon us. And so I shared to some friends yesterday that, receiving the 5 mindfulness trainings basically means the journey is just beginning. Or if we've received it already, the journey is continuing. But how can we have it pass on to our descendants? How can we have this continue? We want people to be happy, but let's start by educating. Let's start by transmitting these beautiful seeds that we have. And so That's Tay's dream. We're living Tay's dream. And so let's put that effort forward to together build a better future. We're building it now. And time is going to go by so quick. And so let's take advantage of it. Let's really put that effort together as a community. We need each other more than ever to come together to build. No matter where you're from, no matter what you grew up in, no matter how you are, we need each other. I want to end my talk with a story that you can also bring along with you. It's a story that I shared in our past holiday retreat for children. But I really enjoy it, and I hope it's simple enough to where you can also share it as well. I can't take credit for the story, but I'd love to share the story with you. And also, one last thing before I tell this story is referencing again Dragon Ball Z is with their race, with Goku's race, the Saiyan race. Basically, in any battle that they've gotten into, especially in the beginning, they were always lost, or they've always been defeated, or they've always been hurt or near death. Some have died, but it's like they come back to life. It's, crazy stuff. But the thing about their race is the more they get hurt, the stronger they become in the next battle. And so for us, we can be damaged or we can be hurt, but when we're practicing, we come back so much stronger. We come back so much stronger. And so I like to tell this story. It's a story I told to the children, and they gave names for the characters in the story. So I will use those names again. If you were at the holiday retreat, if you know, you know. But this time it's been improved a bit because we now have a color printer. And so I will share the story. So this is a story about a farmer and two buckets. And so one day, there was a farmer and his two buckets. And so the kids, they gave the name for this one, his name is Bucky. This was Bob, and this was Joe. Joe. Okay, so we have Bucky, Bob, and Joe. Okay, these are the characters of the story. And so I don't know if you know, I know it's quite a small image for those in the back, but I don't know if you notice anything about the two buckets and Bucky, Bob, and Joe. He's leaking, huh? Yeah, maybe Bucky is leaking a bit. So, the farmer's doing his job, going to the river every day to get some fresh water for his plants, his crops, so that he can nourish his crops, his plants. And so he takes his two buckets, Bucky and Joe, to the river every day to go and get water for his crops. One day, Bucky and Joe were just hanging out, but Bucky wasn't happy. Bucky was feeling very down. Don't know if you can see Bucky. There's a little frown on his face. And then Bucky was crying. All of a sudden, just crying. The farmer Bob came by and was like, Bucky, what's wrong? What's going on? Why are you crying? Bucky was like, I don't feel worth it. I feel worthless. Joe is bringing all the water for you. He's perfect. But me, I have a leak, and so I'm not bringing my full capacity that I can bring. I'm not helping you as much as I can, or as much as Joe can. I'm worthless to you. One day, and then Bob was like, come with me, let's go for a walk. So we picked up Bucky, and they went for a walk. And on this walk, Bob was showing Bucky, look what you've done. You've allowed me to enjoy these flowers on my path. I enjoy my walk every day because of these flowers. And thanks to you, your leak, you're able to water these flowers. Because if you weren't leaking, then most likely we would not have these flowers. And so, thank you so much, Bucky. This next one's my favorite. And then Bucky was shook. Bucky was like, what? Are you serious? I did that? Whoa. I'm like, yeah, you see, that's a reaction there. That's a great one. Yeah. Yes, you've helped so many people out. You've helped me out just through your leak and offering flowers. And when Bucky saw that, Bucky was a happy bucket with his leak. And so many of us, we might find ourselves as Bucky. We're not perfect. We might have a leak, but our leak really can help others without us noticing it. And so you're beautiful with who you are. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. With your leak, with any of your shortcomings, if you've accepted them, you help out so many people, and you don't even realize it. And so when you leave the monastery and you're walking mindfully wherever you are, and people ask you, hey man, what's up? It's like, I just came from a mindfulness retreat. It's like, what? Or and then they'd be like, yeah, I was at a monastery in Mississippi. Wait, what? They have that there? But it's just like, yeah, your peace is contagious. Your happiness is contagious. And so don't take for granted the impact you have on people's lives. And let's make it a positive one with our practice. At the monastery, we're always here. We're not going anywhere. When Access, we're here. And we're always available to you. And so please, if you can, make an effort to visit us more. And we'll try our best to organize more wake-up events, or more events just in general. It's not a promise, but we'll try our best. But knowing that you guys are there, we're so happy. So really, I really do believe that these past couple of days together, we're already building our future. We're already building what we can do now. And so with that, thank you guys so much, so much for your presence, and thank you for bearing with me for the last hour or so. But I really appreciate you guys, and I wish you a happy continuation, and really hope to see you in the future, as well as the monastics. On behalf of the monastics, we're so grateful that you came. And yeah, let's do this again. And thank you guys so much. And really, when I say this, we really love you guys. We really do. So thank you guys so much. And let us enjoy 3 sounds of the bell.